Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's December 14th, 2021. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, rejoined by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, who's back from his little hiatus, and we're here to discuss the news of the day. And Matt, welcome back. Your legion of Zoomers were a little apoplectic yesterday, very rattled by your absence, but can I tell them where you were?
The explanation is obvious. I mean, you crystal-balled me. You crystal-balled me and took me off the screen the whole time. It was very rude.
Okay, but do I have permission to tell the real story?
I didn't know there was a story. You can tell whatever stories you want.
So here's the deal, and you're going to see what CaneSport and the Canes Nation have in Matt Shodell. Okay, so it's only the biggest recruiting weekend of the year, right? You know, I mean, there's all kinds of visits going on. All hell's breaking loose. Mario's first visit weekend, yada, 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 okay? Except for one problem. It was Matt's wife's birthday, okay? And I'm not going to
birthday.
And I'm not going to qualify that for one reason. There's rules. Well, everyone knows. Happy wife, happy life, right? Okay, that's number one. But number two, you don't ever discuss a woman's age. Okay.
No, but it was a big one.
Yeah, but we're not discussing that. You don't discuss a woman's age, Matt.
I didn't say an age. I just said it was a big one.
Okay, so it's his wife's birthday. Okay, and to make a long story short, it was a big one, like Matt says, and so he's being the great husband that he is. He decides, that he's gonna have this whole weekend of activities and schmoozing and R&R and the whole thing. So he takes off for the other coast. I'm not even going to say where he went because we don't do free advertising here. We're not the Chamber of Commerce for this destination on the southwest coast of Florida where Matt went. So it's, Saturday. It's Saturday nights, like, 6 o'clock, whatever. And Matt's sitting on some dock, okay, over there on the southwest coast of Florida at some place that we're not going to say where it was. And he's sitting on this dock, being all romantic and everything and watching the sunset and the whole thing for his wife's birthday. And it suddenly hits him that he has to make a recruiting call. And he's sitting there on this dock with his wife on the southwest coast of Florida, making a couple recruiting calls while his wife just soaks in the sunset. And so he did his duty to all of us, and we are forever grateful to Matt, and he did his duty to his wife, and she is forever grateful. And I guarantee you that Matt is on the candidate list for Husband of the Year here as we progress to the end of the calendar year, and he's definitely been nominated for that crown here as the year comes to a close. So that's the Matt Shodell story. That's where he was yesterday, and now he's back. And so, Matt, let's get to the news of today as opposed to.
And by the way, Gary, I literally did tell you I will still do Good Morning CaneSport. I called you. I said, listen, I'll be back at 9:30. Like, we could tape for like 15 or 20 minutes. I'll tell my wife I got to go.
I'm like, no. I figured, like, after a day like that, there's no question that his wife had better things in mind than Matt sitting there in the hotel room taping.
I'm not sure. Listen, if I told her I was going out for a walk and I'd be back in 20 minutes, she would have been very happy. I don't think it would have mattered. So.
Well, I just figured there had to be something better than filming Good Morning CaneSport. So I flew solo yesterday and did the best I could without you interrupting me. It actually was kind of refreshing. But anyway.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, here we are today, and we can't waste any more time because we're 4 minutes into the show. We have not talked about any news of the day, and there's a lot of it, and it's really interesting. So let's get right to it. Different stories on the website today. Obviously, everything's about recruiting. You got the early signing period coming Wednesday morning. Miami's been scrambling, okay? But there are some guys on the fence. You've got Jaleel Skinner on the fence, Earl Little on the fence. We'll talk about that one too. Landon Ibieta on the fence. Chris Graves has been on the fence. There's been a lot of guys on the fence. It's been a turbulent time. Let's be honest. Matt, I want to take Earl Little first because you and I have assumed there's no way he's coming to Miami. He's going to Alabama, and we feel pretty strongly about it. But they are playing this out a little bit to the end. We have a story on the website this morning talking to Earl Little Sr., who actually tells us that the only reason that they were not on the Miami campus this weekend was because they had a funeral to go to. And he expounds on their plans for the next 24 hours or so as they get ready for signing day, which will now be tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
Losing track of your days. You're working too much.
I'm losing track of my days.
Go out of town and it all falls apart, Gary.
Yeah, it all falls apart. Yeah, it really does. You'll enjoy that story. They insist that they're going to sit down and go through all the pros and cons of all their different options. We still think Earl Little's going to Alabama. Let's be honest. Matt, would you agree with that?
So what I'll add, and look, when we write these stories, guys, you have to understand, we don't include Earl and I know we have known each other for a long time. We chit chat and this and that, and we're not going to include every single detail in the story. Like I included the stuff that was pertinent to the story. But I didn't look, and Earl and I know each other very well. So I didn't really want to push the issue.
You already said that a minute ago. They get it. You and Earl go way back. You know each other well.
For those of you that think I interrupt Gary more than he interrupts me, I beg to differ. Earl and I know each other very well. So we were chit-chatting, and after sort of the interview part of it, and this was all on the record anyway. None of this was off the record, which is why I'll say it right here. But basically, I said, it's such a shame that the funeral feels so bad and all that. And he says, he says, I went to the funeral, and Earl Jr. was hanging out with like some of his college friends, and the mom was in California. So I mean, technically, Earl Jr. could have come by himself without his parents to Miami if he really wanted to. So like to me, well, basically Earl Sr. would have just made sure that Earl Jr. was on campus. Like Earl Sr. would have said, if he didn't have to go to a funeral and be away for the weekend, he would have basically said like, hey, Jr., we're going to Miami today. The fact that Earl Jr. didn't think to himself, my dad's not here, my mom's in California, but I'm going to go out there anyway because I really want to get around that program by myself. I don't care. And the fact he didn't is basically all I needed to know. And I didn't say anything to Earl Sr. like, well, why didn't Earl Jr. just go by himself? Because, it's sort of rude. This wasn't what the interview was about. But like when you read between the lines, he certainly could have gone by himself. Earl Sr. clearly told me that he was spending time with some of his, friends, football friends and things like that over the weekend instead. So yeah, I don't expect a miracle with Earl Little come Wednesday. Yes, Earl Little hasn't told Earl Sr. where he's going to go. Maybe Earl Jr. will have a big surprise for Dad. I think he knows Dad would love to see him stay in Miami and play for the hometown team. I just don't get that vibe, and Earl Sr. certainly doesn't know. So for me to say, oh, it's over, it's not over. But reading between the lines, like what I just told you guys, I just would find it hard to believe that Earl Jr. is feeling Miami.
I think we're in agreement that we think he's going to Bama, but there's another guy that's committed to that is actually committed to Bama that I'm not as sure about, Matt, and that's Jaleel Skinner, the big wide receiver tight end, and he came to Miami this past weekend, had a great time. The indications that we're getting in a lot of places are that he will stick with Bama, but I just, I think back to Paradise Camp and the great time that he and his family seemed to be having at Paradise Camp and the reports that things went well this weekend and stuff. And I just wonder if this is one that maybe Miami can flip. And I'm sure they're going to be trying hard here right to the very end on Jaleel Skinner. And, we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. Matt, you actually spoke to his dad earlier yesterday. And what impressions did you walk away from that conversation?
Well, I spoke to his dad. I spoke to his tight ends coach. I spoke very briefly to a family member. But basically, look, I understand you're saying you're holding out hope. And maybe there's some modicum of hope that can be had somewhere. But the dad clearly said to me, the dad started off the conversation because I had just talked to Jaleel's coach, and I said, I wanted to talk to you also because when I was talking to the coach, Coach Tardy over at IMG does a great job, by the way. That whole IMG staff is insane, by the way. It was very cool. I got to talk to Pepper Johnson briefly yesterday, who, my whole wife's family, since we bought up my wife, huge New York Giants fans. So I told him, I said, listen, my wife's not going to believe I'm talking to you, but, I'm not calling about the New York Giants or the old days, I'm calling about a future NFL guy. So anyway, the bottom line is Coach Tardy had not talked to Jaleel since he came back from Miami, but he had talked to Jaleel before he left. And the impression Coach Tardy had when Jaleel left to go to Miami was that Miami had a chance. Maybe, he said 25, maybe 50% chance. And so I did want to talk to Jaleel's dad. And I reached out to Jaleel's dad. I texted him. I said, listen, I don't want to run the story without context. Like, this is from before the visit. Like, I'd like to get some feedback on how the visit went and where things stand. I don't want to put a story out there saying there's a chance for Miami with Jaleel if there's not. And the dad, who had not responded, none of Jaleel's family had responded, or Jaleel since the visit, he quickly called me, and I guess maybe the dad didn't want it out there that Miami had a chance. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes with these things, but with Alabama and Nick Saban, sometimes if stuff gets put out like, oh, it's 50-50 Miami and Alabama, he might go a little nuts, I guess. And the dad said, we're definitely signing with Alabama. But then he qualified it and said, well, we're not closing any doors, which, I don't know where to go with that. First thing he said, we're definitely signing with Alabama. Next sentence, well, we're not closing any doors. I don't ask more questions because it's just going to get murkier from there. You already know what you're dealing with at that point, right? So I can see why you're saying, like, hey, there's a chance because, hey, like, it's recruiting, man. And Jaleel's not signing till Friday. I talked to I think he's the athletic director, Coach Zalati over at IMG. I don't know, but I reached out to him last night.
Wait, why is he waiting? And why is he? What's the reason for waiting until Friday?
Okay, so apparently there's school still going on. So you have to. Okay, I don't want to make this too long. Basically, the families from South Carolina, when they went to visit Miami, this is how serious this Miami visit was. The parents flew from South Carolina to some airport up north in Florida. I can't remember where. They drive from there. They have a driver who drives, I guess, part of the official visit, to go pick up Jaleel at IMG, then drive to Miami. Then it's the reverse 2 days later. They got to Miami at like 9:30 on Friday night. From the dad's end, they left campus in the early afternoon on Sunday to do the return trip. So it's like not easy to do for the parents. So just for them to come down and do that, when the kid's committed to Alabama, I don't understand why all of a sudden now Miami's out of it, which I agree with you. There's something a little weird there. I don't know why.
And why wait till Friday?
Okay, so the reason he's waiting for Friday, let's get to that first. Okay, so certainly he could have signed on Wednesday with everyone else, but he doesn't want to sign at IMG. He wants to sign in front of his family. And apparently his class is on Wednesday. He can't get back to South Carolina on Wednesday. I guess he gets back to South Carolina on Thursday, from what I was told. And like to rush and try to do it when he gets back Thursday, well, we'll just set it up for Friday. There's a window. It's not like you have to sign on Wednesday. There's a window of days where you can sign during the early period. He's taking advantage of that, and he's going to sign on the Friday. I think some people might think there's a little more hope because of that, and maybe there is. And again, I didn't talk to Jaleel. I talked to the dad. At the end of the day, this is going to be Jaleel's decision. Jaleel's not really talking about it. Jaleel easily could have just come out and said publicly, or responded to one of my texts and said, I'm signing with Alabama. He didn't do that. So when you say, hey, maybe there's a chance, yeah, I don't care. The dad said he's definitely going to Alabama. Because until the kid says something, like, you don't know. It's recruiting. I've seen such crazy things happen in recruiting. I've seen parents who stormed out of a room and refused to sign their kids' scholarship papers because they didn't agree with the decision they just found out about. So,
and especially now, this is the fog of war that's officially starting today. This is the fog of war.
So now, yeah, but with all that said, I still think I would put it at maybe 5% chance. I just don't. This is a dad who's pretty close to the kid. He was on the visit with the kid. The kid, Ja'Cory Brown told us on Sunday of the visit, doesn't look good to get Jaleel if he doesn't wait, if he signs on Wednesday. So it's not like, Jaleel obviously told Ja'Cory something too. Why Jaleel doesn't just tell the media, tell me, even just respond with a simple word,
I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to interrupt because that's what I do. And I'm going to say
I was done.
Well, I'm going to say 60-40.
That's my new line whenever you interrupt.
I'll go 60-40. People like percentages. They love us to do percentages. I mean, I went 80% on Mario Cristobal.
Why 60-40?
I could have gone to 100. I'm going to say 60-40 because
why? Based on what?
I'm going to give Alabama the 60. It's just a gut instinct. I don't know. It's a gut instinct. I'm just reading the tea leaves that I think I see.
So when you're president and you hear a rumor that maybe North Korea is going to bomb you, but you have no concrete information other than the dictator of North Carolina's father says, "Hey, I think he's going to bomb you." Are you going to launch the nuclear missiles at North Korea? Is there a 60-40 chance you do that?
I don't know, man. That's like way above my pay grade.
I mean, that's basically what you
want me to make nuclear missile decisions?
This is a Miami nuclear bomb you just dropped, because fans hear 60-40 Jaleel Skinner, they're going to think, wow, I'll take that. Like there's a really good chance, like 40-60.
And they should take that. I mean, would you feel more comfortable if I said 70-30?
I gave you my percentage.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel a shade better than you about it.
Ja'Cory Brown says no. The kid's dad says no. Like who? I don't understand. I just wish you had, if you talk to somebody, a source or something who said, hey, we think we're gonna get him, great. But like you're just saying gut feeling. I'm trying to just dig a little deeper on that. That's all.
Gut feeling. All right, let's move on.
My gut feeling is I just ate about 2 pounds of steak last night at Cote, this place in Midtown. They cook your food. They cook your steak in front of you, and they say they do that because that way you're eating it before it's just sitting. Like you go to get a steak at a restaurant somewhere.
It keeps cooking.
Yeah, and it keeps cooking while it's sitting there. Like we cook it in front of you over a 700-degree flame.
Yeah.
So you can eat it the second it comes off. I'm like, you know what? I don't need a $60 steak. I can just eat the $30 one that sits for an extra few minutes. I don't really care.
And let me guess. That was for your wife's birthday too.
It might have been for my wife's birthday. Listen, she had a party on Friday. We go away on Saturday. We come back on Monday, and we have a family, with her family at Cote in Midtown. I mean, it was and recruiting I had to sneak recruiting calls in from the bathroom the whole time. I mean, it was it was very difficult, but I think we did okay. We made out all right with it.
100%, which leads me to Landon Ibieta. Okay, this one's kind of interesting because. He's been in the class for a long time, and you're kind of wondering, are they doing the right thing taking him? Should they be reaching a little higher? There's nobody recruiting him, yada, yada, yada. Well, now all of a sudden there are other people recruiting him. LSU, Nebraska, Louisville. Landon Ibieta's got options now, Matt. And Miami has kind of like been slow playing, and it's looked like he might drop them, and now he's saying he might not drop them. And, we're not getting straight answers there. What percentage would you put on Landon Ibieta landing in the class tomorrow?
Well, can I start at the beginning, or can I do something besides just give a percentage?
Yeah, good.
Are you giving me the face like I don't care, do whatever? You give me the Gary Ferman face. I don't know what that means.
Leave a reason for that. We're sitting here talking about. But wait a minute. Wait. We're talking about the news of the day. You still want to give them a reason to read the story. Let's. So, you can go back to the beginning.
That's what I'm going to do.
They will still go read the story.
I'm not going to read the story over Good Morning CaneSport. Don't worry about that. That's not happening. But I want to just provide some background because I feel bad because, so here's what happens in recruiting, okay? Every year, December 1st hits, and kids who you've been very friendly with and have covered and have a great rapport with, they go nuts. Even the commitments. Because they just, they get sort of pushed and pulled in different directions from friends, sometimes from family, from street agents, depending who they are. That's not Landon Ibieta. I'm talking just general terms. And from other coaches at different schools, right? Like, listen, Miami's struggling, come to my school, whatever. There's always something at any school, not just Miami, you can point to, unless maybe it's in Alabama, and say, listen, this is why we're better for you. Depth chart, even with Alabama, you can negative recruit against Alabama all day, depth chart-wise. You'll never play there. You come here and start day one, stuff like that. So anyway, most of these recruits tend to dry up around December 1st in terms of wanting to talk to you, and some do still talk to you. Some respond over text sometimes, whatever, and some don't. Landon Ibieta falls in the latter category. He's totally shut off communication December 1st, 100% cut it off. And he'd been, anytime I ever called him, answered, he'd reach out to me sometimes unsolicited, whatever, totally shut off. So eventually, after a few days, I'm like, I better call his coach. What's going on? Something weird's happening. So I talked to the coach. Then Mario Cristobal gets, and nothing was really going on. Everything was fine. He said the backup plan is Tulane at that point, right? And then Mario Cristobal gets hired. And And a couple of days later, on I guess last Wednesday, I called the coach again. I'm like, listen, I just want to check in on Landon. We're checking on all the different recruits. He hasn't been responding. I just want to see, is everything good with him in Miami? And the coach says, well, he hasn't heard from Coach Cristobal. Like, I haven't heard from Coach Cristobal. Coach Cristobal hasn't set up a visit, nothing like that. It's a little weird, whatever. So that's the background on it. Okay. I had not spoken to anyone. I reached out a couple of times to Landon's dad and to Landon. They didn't respond. So I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Like, I'm not going to bother people. If they don't want to talk.
It's looking like he's dropping out of the class.
It felt like he was. And we talked. And listen, we talked to some sources.
Yeah.
Coach the situation here, and it didn't necessarily sound like it was going to be, hey, we need Landon Ibieta. We're battling for this guy. So as it turns out, he was probably, from what I understand, the last guy that Mario reached out to that was on the commit list. Because look, it's got to be in an order, right? Whoever the first guy is on the commit list that Mario calls is the first guy. Whoever the last guy is that Mario calls is the last guy. This happened to be the last guy, but he did get the Mario Cristobal call. I spoke to the dad yesterday, and the dad said, absolutely. It was that late that Wednesday, he got the call from Mario Cristobal, and Mario's been texting him ever since, and like they want him in the class. But this is a kid who also had been waiting on an LSU offer like forever, and he was very upset when LSU didn't offer. And he always wanted to go to LSU. And now LSU offered, and he just took his official visit to LSU this past weekend. And the dad said it went very well. He's also now getting offers from Nebraska, from Louisville. Georgia's starting to recruit him. Like, this is a kid who is not a nobody. When it was just Tulane a week ago, Tulane was his only other option.
I mean,
so of course, it's easy to pile on. And the dad was super upset about it when he was talking. I mean, I didn't include all this in the story, but the dad was very upset. Like, and I said to the dad, I said, listen, you know me. I said, I've talked to your son a million times. We've always just report what he tells us and we report what we can report. And I've talked to you before. And I said, look, I talked to the coach. I reported what the coach said. The coach said he hadn't talked to him, and that's what we reported at that time, And he says, yeah. And the dad says, yeah, but now there's all this other people out there speculating, oh, he got dropped, and oh, Miami doesn't want him, and this and that, And the dad was very upset about it, and rightfully so, because if it was my son, and I knew that my son still had a Miami offer. I see the text coming from Mario Cristobal all the time. The kid's got offers from major programs, and everyone's saying the kid's no good. He can't go anywhere, So it was an unfortunate happenstance that the last update on the kid publicly was the coach saying Tulane's his backup option, which was true at that time, and that he hadn't heard from Miami, which was true at that time. Where they went wrong as a family was just, he said Landon's had it talking to anybody. He doesn't want to talk to anybody, even his family, about what's going on. So somebody in that camp needed to reach out to me or somebody in the media and say, look, here's what's going on. Because if he's so upset about it, that's how you fix it. And I think they just magically expected it to get fixed with a couple of tweets like, oh, I got an offer from this school. Oh, I got an offer from that school.
Right.
That's not quite enough. So, so I'm sorry it worked out that way. It was a bad circumstance for the family. And now, as it pertains to your question for whether Landon comes to Miami or not, I do not expect him to come to Miami. But
yeah, I'm in the same boat.
And Landon hasn't said anything. So even the dad doesn't know. But it just doesn't look. Just haven't done this for so long. The optics of he could have come to Miami this weekend. He didn't. Went to LSU instead. He's freaked out about everything. The dad clearly said to me, I said, listen, should we just take him off the commit list? It sounds like he's trying to weigh his options. The dad says, no, leave him on the commitment list. So we left him on the commitment list. And maybe on Wednesday we take him off. Maybe tomorrow we take him off. Maybe today we take him off. I don't know. I assume he's going to sign tomorrow somewhere. Maybe he'll let it go later. But I'm pretty sure he's an early enrollee. So that's my thought.
All right, so we've got an update on Landon Ibieta on the website today. We also have an update on Chris Graves. For a long time, it was looking like he might flip to Florida, Matt, and also has flirted with LSU. But it's a little nip and tuck. But if we had to put a percentage on it today, I think you and I would both lean that percentage towards Miami. That at the end of the day, he's still going to remain a Miami Hurricane. Would you agree with that?
I mean, his nickname is Chris. I only text people Graves because he never talks on the phone. I've never had a kid. Right. Like, he used to talk on the phone with me all the time back in, I don't know, pre-season. So like August and earlier. That was it. Ever since August, don't even try to call the kid. Don't even hit up my phone. If you want to text me, I'll send you a sentence, maybe a word, if you're lucky, and if you send me a follow-up question, I'm probably not going to answer it for 2 days. That's Chris Graves, man. And when I talked to his mom yesterday, now I understand why, because, she said he's a very hard kid to really know what he's thinking. He makes a lot of last second decisions. He's not someone who wears his heart on his sleeve, so to speak. It would be I don't know what the opposite of that. You wear your feet on your head. I don't know. What's the opposite of heart on your sleeve? Whatever opposite of heart on your sleeve is, that's what he does. Very hard to get a read on the kid, which is why when, even when he texts me like, yeah, I love Miami, even when the mom says, the plan is for him to sign with Miami, like I still put him at 85% for Miami just because I know what he's like. And I know that he's one of these kids that like in the last second, if it pops in his head that morning, you know what? Like, I think I should go to Florida now. Like, that's what he'll do. Yeah. And that's why I think you see a lot of these cornerback offers that have gone out to Miami in the last few days, because like, I don't think they are comfortable just knowing.
You okay if I go 70-30 on that one? Lead in
70-30 because you can
I'm going to go 70-30 Miami on that. Maybe even 75-25.
You can listen. I've seen so many kids that are like this, and it's not a bad thing. It's just some kids know what they want, and some kids don't, and some kids think they know what they want, but they don't. And he's in the category of he thinks he knows what he wants, but it could just like at the last second take a flip. And like that is what's concerning, because he's not one of these kids who just like is steady Eddie, so to speak. Is that even an expression? Am I dating myself? So that's where the concern is. There's no legitimate concern on paper from what the mom says, from what the kid texts me, but just knowing what I know about him and knowing how this recruitment has gone, like nothing would surprise me with him. Just like how Avante Williams wound up at Miami, I could see this being the exact reverse, where this kid winds up at Florida in the last second. Like it's just one of those deals, and I don't think it's going to happen. But he's definitely one where when you get that signature in, you'll be like, and breathe that sigh of relief. And I'm sure they will at Miami too.
All right. So let me move on to the final couple stories, because we're getting a little long-winded here, and we're not going to get
this me. I'm sorry, it's my fault.
Matt mentioned that.
Just say Matt's getting long-winded. Why blame yourself?
And people got to go to work. Okay, it's good morning, CaneSport. It's not good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, CaneSport. But there are a couple more stories on the site, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming as the day goes on. Matt mentioned Miami keeps offering defensive backs, and that's very, very true. A couple DBs, a four-star cornerback from Keyshawn Smith's high school out in California by the name of Jaleel Florence. He got an offer on Sunday. And there's also a four-star commit from Oregon's recruiting class that is hoping that Miami will take him because he wants to go where Mario Cristobal goes. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one as well. But I think that's going to be it for today. We're gonna.
Okay. I did. Can I just say something?
You got something else you still want to say?
I don't want to make it
20 minutes already.
I don't want to make you crazy, but I do want people to understand.
Your weekend with your wife. We've talked about
this is actually important because signing day is tomorrow, and we're not going to have another chance to really address this. There's a lot of talent
tomorrow.
Tomorrow's signing day, right?
Right, but we will have a chance to address it tomorrow.
Well, but tomorrow is actually signing day.
Right, but we will still have a chance to address it.
All right, so I'm going to save it for tomorrow. I'll save it for tomorrow.
Whatever you want.
Go ahead,
address it now. We're at 28 minutes. We'll make it 29.
It'll take 2 minutes. There's a lot of talent that's still going to be signing in February. Like a lot. Do you want me to go down some of the names, Gary? That's what I was going to ask you if you want me to do or not.
We'll do that tomorrow.
Okay. There's a lot of them.
Or the next day.
What I'm saying is that if people don't sign on sign, we'll probably do a story on it at some point. So that's fine. So don't stress out if they miss a couple of kids here and there. There's so many kids. I haven't seen this many kids since they started the early signing period that are talented that Miami is recruiting that are waiting until February. There's a ton. They could get another 8 to 10 kids. They get 8 to 10 kids in February they're recruiting right now if they wanted to that are waiting. So
it gives the kids more time to get to know, see who the new staff is.
Which is great.
Yeah. So. All right, so that's going to do it for today, everybody. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us.
I have something else. I have a lot of things. Hold on. No, I'm just kidding. That was just for you. That was for you telling everybody I was on vacation.
Oh, my God. All right.
Now we're even.
Let me try this again in honor of Matt's vacation. That's going to do it for today, everybody. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us for another day here in paradise at CaneSport.com. Tomorrow is the early signing day, and we'll be coming at you with commitments and signings bright and early, as usual. And we'll also try to have a little Good Morning CaneSport waiting for you when you wake up. So until then, everybody have a great day, and goodbye, everybody.